All right, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing a beer from the Boulevard Brewing Company, and they're out of Kansas City, Missouri, and this is their Steep Drop. So they're calling this a Nitro Coffee Milk Stout, which is basically just a milk stout that is brewed with fair trade small batch coffee and then thrown into a nitro can. Comes in at 5.2% alcohol by volume, 23 IBUs in the time of review. This can is approximately 2.5 months old. So yeah, this is one of the newer releases from Boulevard that has shown up in the area, so I thought I would grab it and give it a review. Never had a nitro beer from Boulevard, and it's funny, if you go back like, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, there weren't a lot of nitro beers available in cans or bottles. You pretty much had Guinness, Left Hand Milk Stout Nitro, and maybe a few others. But now there's a lot of different breweries that are putting their beers into nitro cans, even local breweries, and it's cool to see. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one, Nitro Coffee Milk Stout, and not much more to say about it. So on the side here, they tell you how to pour it. Invert the can 3 times, which I did right before I started the review. Steep pour at 180 degrees, and then groove. So I guess we'll see. I'm using the left-hand glass because, you know, they're like the OGs when it comes to nitro beers in the U.S. as far as like craft beers. Here we go. Okay, so we'll see if, I mean, that's cascading. You can see it's cascading. This has been out of the fridge for over half an hour, so I wanted to have it warm up a little bit. But yeah, it's cascading. It's creating that milky looking head, but it didn't cascade or have like the head that a lot of the beers that you see in nitro cans, kind of like Left Hands. But yeah, that pours out this really deep, I'd say like straight up brown color, little, you know, black tinges and whatnot in there. On camera, probably going to be more of like a pitch black or maybe a lighter black, but more of a darker brown. Has about a half finger, maybe a quarter of a finger of this really nice creamy colored like tan head, and it looks very creamy, as you can see. Give it a little bit of swirl. I don't know what I mean. It's nitro. You can tell it's nitro because look at the lacing. The lacing is amazing. But anyway, it looks okay. It's not the best looking nitro beer, but whatever. Let's get a nose. Yeah, it smells like sweeter coffee. Like you took, you know, some kind of good coffee and threw some creamer in there or sweetener. Pretty much what it smells like. Roasted malts, dark chocolate, more of like a 40-50% cacao bar vibe. That coffee is really prominent. Now, this is 2.5 months old, not the freshest, but this just showed up, as far as I know, within the last couple of weeks. This is the first time I saw it on the shelf, so probably showed up somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks old already. So, you know, when it comes to coffee beers, I like to drink them, you know, as fresh as possible, but 2.5 months shouldn't be a huge detriment to the beer, but it might be a slight one. Yeah, it smells really good. There's not a lot going on here. There's chocolate, roasted malt, and that coffee is the star of the show. A touch of like a sweeter overall feel to the beer, but you know, it doesn't have that milk stout. A lot of times when I have a milk stout, just plain milk stout without any adjuncts, I get like a metallic vibe to the nose. Not getting that in here, but I'm also not getting like a lot of vanilla. When different beers use lactose, more often than not, I get a vanilla. It's funny though, when it comes to milk stouts, I don't get it as much. So yeah, just a pretty good dose of coffee in here, chocolate, roasted malts, and that's about it. So let's get into it. Cheers to everyone. Yeah, so the body and the mouthfeel, pretty much nitro personified. You know, the body, and I say this a lot of times, but it just feels a little bit thin to me. And a lot of bodies when it comes to nitro are thin for me. This is like, you know, 5.2%. This is like higher side of light body kind of thinness, which I guess is appropriate for 5.2, but it just seems a little bit too thin for me. The mouth feels super soft, smooth, creamy. It's what nitro does. The taste is mostly coffee. Has a really nice, just like roasted coffee, like generic roasted coffee vibe to it. Touch of like a berry, which is probably coming from the coffee. I'm also getting like a little bit of an acidity on the palate too, most likely from the coffee. But there's a lot of nice sweet roasted malt. That lactose is adding an additional sweetness. This kind of drinks like a cup of coffee, like I said, in the nose with cream or sweetener into, but not too much. You know, just maybe like 1 cream or 1 sweetener. Has just a kiss of sweetness that kind of helps it out. Shout out to the train going by. It finishes to the sweeter side of things. There's really no bitterness to speak of in this beer. There is no dryness on my palate on the end. It finishes sweeter, but it's not super sweet. It just doesn't have any kind of dryness or any kind of bitterness to offset it. This is really easy going. I mean, It's in a nitro can, so you're getting the nitro mouthfeel. It has coffee in it. You can taste it. It's just not overly complex for my palate. There's 3 or 4 notes. They work pretty well. Nothing I would write home about. Honestly, it's a solid, good beer, and I do enjoy it. So I'm going to give Steep Drop from Boulevard straight 3.75 out of 5. Can't go much higher than that. I would say that, when it comes to nitro beers, this is kind of, good and whatnot, but I still lean towards left hand for nitro beers, whether it's in a can or a bottle or whatever. They just know what they're doing when it comes to nitro beers. Not to say Boulevard doesn't. I'm just saying, for me, this is a good, well-made beer, but it's not doing a whole lot for me. Like, my mind isn't blown. There's nothing crazy about it. It's just well made. You taste the coffee, you taste sweet roasted malt, a little bit of chocolate in there, finishes to the sweeter side of things. The most complex part of this is the coffee, but it's only slightly complex. But at the end of the day, I can't really complain about it at all. I do enjoy it. So 3.75 out of 5 for Steep Drop from Boulevard. Price and availability, I want to say that I paid somewhere around like $2 for this can, maybe slightly more. Maybe this is probably like in the $2 to $2.50 range in my area. I'd imagine 6-packs are probably around $10 to $12 wherever you see Boulevard. Availability, we just saw it recently. I don't get all of Boulevard's releases here in the Western New York area. I've only get some of them. Like, some of the barrel-aged stuff doesn't show up. But if you see Boulevard, you probably should see this because it is in a can. I don't think it's a year-round offering, but it's probably like a seasonal or a specialty release. But it is in a can, and I'd imagine if you do get Boulevard, this should show up, I would think anyway. So yeah, Steep Drop from Boulevard. Yeah, 3.75 out of 5. Nothing more, nothing less. Alcohol in here, I really can't tell there's any. It's 5.2%. Really no astringency on the palate or in the chest or anything. Like I said, it's a really easygoing nitro beer. Chris over at Off the 10th, good friend of mine, fellow beer tuber, I think he should try this out because it is hashtag stout season. I think this is something he would enjoy. So Chris, if you have not picked this up yet and you see it, give it a go. I think you will dig it. And I think most people will dig this if you like nitro beers and you like coffee stouts. The milk stout portion, yeah, like I said, lactose, a little bit of sweetness to it, sure. But if you just like coffee stouts, you probably will dig this one, and I dig it, so yeah. Anyway, I appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. Till the next one, cheers.